Hi, welcome to Microservices Lab. In this lecture, we will be doing a comparison among GraphQL, REST and gRPC. Let us start with the introduction. GraphQL. GraphQL is a collection of three things: Schema Definition Language or SDL, Runtime Environment, and Query Language. GraphQL provides a mechanism through which a client can request exactly what it wants from an API, nothing more or less. A server can send only the required data specified by the client in the request. It is not a tool or a framework for designing an API. It's all about querying an API and getting the exact data from it. So it is clear that GraphQL is not a tool or a framework for designing an API. It's all about querying an API. So what does querying an API mean? Let us understand this with the help of an example. Suppose we have created an API for a library that returns a list of books. Each book has several fields like ID, name, pages, and author. The author field itself contains a few fields: ID, name, age, and address. So this API returns a list of books together with the fields. Now let us take two cases. Case 1, where a client A wants to create a web page and he will be displaying a list of books together with all fields. For this purpose, our API is suitable. Why? Because it is returning all the information that is required by the client A. Now let us take the case 2, where a client B wants to create a web page, but he will be displaying only the name of the books that are available in the library. For this purpose, our API is not suitable. Why? Because our API is returning a lot more information which is actually useless to the client B, as the client B is only interested in the name of the books that are available in the library. So what can be done in this case, or how to tackle this problem? We can use GraphQL here. So GraphQL enables a client to request exactly what it wants from an API, nothing more or less. And it enables a server to send only the required data specified by the client in the request. So this is where GraphQL can be used, and this is what querying an API means. GraphQL is actually developed at Facebook. For more info on GraphQL, you can watch my previous video. Let us see REST now. REST is a group of 6 constraints: client-server architecture, uniform interface, layered system, cache, stateless, and code on demand. Among these constraints, code on demand is optional. These constraints govern the scalability of the web. REST is not a tool or a framework, it is an architectural style in which we satisfy all the above mentioned constraints uniformly. REST is commonly applied to the design of APIs for web services. So it is clear that REST is applied to the design of APIs for web services. So REST is used to design APIs. So let us take a look at the history of REST. In late 1993, there was a guy named Roy Fielding, who was the co-founder of the Apache HTTP server project. He was concerned with the web scalability problem. Upon analysis, he found that web scalability depends upon a set of key constraints which are described here. So he and others set out to do an operation in which they used a pragmatic approach. That approach was to uniformly satisfy all the constraints so that web could grow or expand continuously without any problem. So this was the idea of Roy Fielding basically. So Roy Fielding named this group of 6 constraints the web's architectural style and featured them in his PhD dissertation. And gave a description REST to his dissertation. So that is REST actually. Now let us take a look at gRPC. gRPC is a modern open source high performance RPC framework that can run in any environment. In gRPC, a client application can directly call a method on a server application on a different machine, as if it were a local method, making it easier for developers to create distributed applications and services. So gRPC is basically an RPC framework. RPC, or remote procedure call, provides a mechanism so that a client can invoke a function that is residing on the server remotely. So this is basically gRPC. gRPC is developed at Google. Let us take a look at their working. Again, starting with the GraphQL. In GraphQL, first we define types and operations in a schema file using the schema definition language, or SDL. Later, this file is passed by the GraphQL runtime environment and it creates an in-memory schema from it to handle the incoming request. So first, in GraphQL, we create a schema file, and in that schema file, we define types and operations. These operations are exposed to the clients so that they can use any of them. Later, this schema is passed by the GraphQL runtime environment and it creates an in-memory schema from it. It then uses the schema, in-memory schema, to validate and handle the incoming request. GraphQL runtime environment does not interact with the clients directly. A controller has to be created that handles the client's request. It passes the request body to the GraphQL runtime environment, and then runtime environment performs the required action and returns the result to the controller. And then controller creates a response from the result and send it back to the client. So basically, GraphQL runtime environment does not interact directly with the clients. There is a controlling layer, which is basically a controller that interacts with the client. A controller receives the request from a client and then it passes the request body to the GraphQL runtime environment. The GraphQL runtime environment will fetch the operation from the request. It will validate the request, the exact operation in the request, in order to see if it exists in the schema file or not. If it exists, then the GraphQL runtime environment will perform the required action and will return the result to the controller. Then further, the controller will wrap this result into a response and will send back it to the client. So this is how GraphQL works. Now let us see REST. In REST, we create resources. A resource usually, but not always, is mapped to a database row. And it provides a set of operations that can be performed on that row. So basically, a resource is mapped to a database row. Not always, as a resource can be any web concept, like an HTML page, a video, a photo, or etc. And we define operations in a resource, and these operations can be performed on the resource. So on one hand, a resource is identified using a URI, and on the other hand, the operations defined by the resource are identified by the URI, HTTP methods, and the media types. These resources are commonly known as endpoints, and endpoint exposes a set of data and functions to facilitate interaction between the client and the server and allow them to exchange information. So an endpoint is basically the one end of a channel, a communication channel, and when we refer to endpoint here, we are referring to the endpoint at server, which helps the client to get that processing power which it requires from the server. So basically, it is basically following the client server architecture here, and the endpoint is basically the server, the API that is established at the server, and client can interact with it, and it allows a client to exchange information with server. Now let us take a look at gRPC. In gRPC, we create services that contains methods that can be called remotely with their parameters and return types. On server side, the server implements this interface and runs a gRPC server to handle client's call. On the client side, the client has a stub that provides the same methods as the server. So basically in gRPC, we create services that will contain the procedures or methods that can be called remotely from the client side. So basically on server side, we implement these methods or procedures and run a gRPC server. The gRPC server runs at a specific IP and a port number. This gRPC server listens to the client's request and perform the operations according to that request. So a client basically uses a stub. A stub is a fake object that contains the same methods that were implemented at server side. So whenever a client invokes any function on the stub, it will be actually invoked at the server side. These services are defined in a protofile that is created using protocol buffers. Protocol buffers are a flexible, efficient, automated mechanism for serializing structured data. Think about XML, but smaller, faster, and simpler. So protocol buffers are usually basically a mechanism of serializing the structured data or a serializing format. As mentioned earlier, a client uses this stub to call a method implemented at server remotely. So this is how gRPC works. Let us take an example of a schema file. So this is a schema file which is intended for a GraphQL runtime environment. So here we are defining two types, which are basically book and author, and providing a few operations that can be performed on these types. GetBook, which takes an argument of type int and returns a book. GetBooks, which takes nothing but returns a list of books. This is an example of a REST endpoint written in Java using JAX-RS. So here the book endpoint is exposed or is identified using the path books. There are two operations or methods in this resource or endpoint, getBook and getBooks. The getBook method is identified using the HTTP method get and path lastly by the media type, which is application JSON. Similarly, the getBooks operation is identified using the HTTP method get and the media type application JSON or application/JSON. So this is an example of an endpoint. This is an example of a gRPC protofile. Here we are creating a service called book service in which we are defining two procedures or methods, getBook and getBooks. GetBook takes an argument or an input request, which is defined here, and returns a book. The book is defined here, and book has several fields: ID, name, pages, and author. The author itself is defined here, which has fields ID, name, age, and address. The getBooks takes nothing and returns the response. The response is defined here. The response is basically has only one field, which is a list of books. So this is an example of gRPC protofile. gRPC uses this protofile for both as the interface definition language and the serializing format. Let us now take a look at the protocols used by these three things. First, let us take a look at GraphQL. GraphQL is actually protocol independent as it doesn't communicate with clients directly. There is a controller between the client and the GraphQL runtime environment. This controller exposes the functionalities offered by the GraphQL runtime environment. So there will always be a layer between the client and the GraphQL runtime environment. This is why GraphQL does not have to worry about any protocol and it actually is protocol agnostic. REST. The web scalability depends on how better we use the HTTP as described by the Roy Fielding. REST is a solution to the web scalability problem, so it is tightly coupled with the HTTP. So REST heavily depends upon HTTP. gRPC. gRPC uses HTTP 2.0 as it provides by default support for bidirectional streaming of data. As gRPC provides the default support for bidirectional streaming of data, it has to use something like HTTP 2.0. So it depends upon HTTP 2.0. Now let us see when to use what. So when we can use GraphQL. In case of overfetching. So what overfetching is? When a client is getting too much data from an API that is useless to it at the moment. Same as the same scenario that were happened with the client B. So when a client is getting too much data which is actually useless to it at the moment, it is known as overfetching. In case of underfetching, when a client is not getting the required information from an endpoint at once and it has to request different endpoints again and again to get the required information. As GraphQL provides us by default support for batching using the data loaders, so it is really important to see that there will be no condition such as the underfetching with the GraphQL. So GraphQL can be used there where there is a problem of underfetching. When you prefer to use a single endpoint over multiple endpoints. So as in case of REST where we have multiple endpoints to get a complete set of instructions or to get a complete set of information from the server. So basically with GraphQL you only have one endpoint that does the job. REST. When you want a simple solution for creating an API. So REST is the simplest among these all. Why? Because in REST you don't have to maintain any kind of schema file or a proto file. When you want your APIs to be easily scalable, REST totally depends upon HTTP, which is really a scalable protocol. So this is why REST itself is very scalable. When you want to allow your clients to get different representation of the same resource as XML, JSON, HTML, etc. As REST provides a full support for different representations, unlike GraphQL or gRPC. In GraphQL, we only get support for JSON till now, and in gRPC, we have a different format, the protocol buffers format, and it has another option as JSON. But with REST, we can either request in and get a response in the XML, JSON, or HTML, and etc. We have a lot of options or media types here. When you prefer to divide responsibilities into multiple endpoints. If you want your application to have multiple endpoints, then REST is your choice. When you want default support for caching in browsers. So REST basically is wonderful approach in which we get the default support for caching. As unlike with the GraphQL where we have to add additional logic for caching in browsers, with REST, we get a default support for caching in browsers. gRPC. When you want a high performance communication channel in your microservices for exchanging information. It is actually a high performant thing. So gRPC is really high performant thing. Why? Because it works with protocol buffers that exchange information in binary format. So it is very fast and it really leaves a very small footprint. When you want out of the box support for bidirectional streaming of data. Yes, gRPC provides a support for bidirectional stream of data by default, and it also provides pluggable support for authentication, load balancing, and etc. When your primary client is not a browser. As you know, gRPC includes invoking of remote procedures. So a browser cannot invoke a remote procedure directly. So when your primary client is not a browser, you can use gRPC easily. This is actually when to use what. So I hope you get something from this lecture. Please share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.